Good morning, good afternoon, good night. However you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you listen, where you listen. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast, and the tripod is back. The bearded bandits have returned. I think Jamal's listening to the fans. He's growing the beard.
You know it. I got to give the people what they want, you know? So it's all back. I mean, I think I shaved, yesterday morning. So it's back. Shady's back again.
Speaking of that, Jamal, how are you doing?
Doing well, Coach. Feels like it's been a minute since all three of us have been together, but always a pleasure to be with you and excited to talk Trojans ball.
And we have the man himself rocking the hoodie pre-summer. It's still spring, so I guess you get a pass. So you got the June gloom out here.
It's cold in the morning.
Ryan Dyrud, how are you doing?
I'm good. We missed you. Last week, but the show rolls on, as they say. But yeah, it's cold in the morning. You know, you wake up for a 7 a.m. meeting. It's like, I mean, you're up before me, but it's like 48, 50 degrees out here in Pasadena. It's chilly.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that go to work in the dark, but it's nighttime it's like the middle of the day when I go home. So I accept my 8 hours. I take my 8 hours and I set my schedule. So I set that perfectly.
Love that. Sets a schedule like he sets the edge. Boom.
Yeah. Set
the
there
edge.
You go.
Ryan's giving me like some Eminem vibes today. You know, I don't know, with the gray hoodie, you know, he's gonna rock some lyrics, drop a bar or two.
He has to throw up his mom's spaghetti first. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I know.
So we had the past month. May was great for us, guys. I will say that we had a bunch of great guests, all the way from Lofa to Matt Liner to last week. We had Jeff Makai that I missed, but you guys handled it well. Amazing month of May. Hopefully we could stack on that. I would like to say I am surprised that Jeff said that we were in the top 10 in NIL collectives. So that's pretty good, I would say. I mean, that means when you think about it, top 10 wise, that means we're competing with, he said it was mostly SEC schools. So we're competing with two other schools within our conference. And you have to wonder who the schools, the extra ones are that's in the way. But he said that we're building, two in our conference. Ohio State, they're both O. Ohio State and Oregon. Yeah. They're both O's.
One's the O and one's O.
Yeah, so it's that was good news to hear. That was refreshing to hear. I think that kind of eased people on how they were thinking we were going with the collective when we were doing with the collective. But he did state that there is a lot of work to do, but they are driving towards it. And they are trying to make the collective very competitive. So I do appreciate that. It kind of sits people back. If they can't say anything else about collective, like we have it here. No more rumors. We have the actual founder of one of the collectives at USC that has the inside. So I love that about it. But talking about collective moving forward, big recruiting weekend, which is weird. And we're going to talk about recruiting. I just want to say this. When it was summertime, when I was getting recruited, Ryan, it was only unofficial visits. We didn't do our official visits in the summer. This is new. This May thing is kind of new. But I think early. Yeah. Oh, because of the December signing date. That makes sense now. Okay. It just clicked. But we had official visits this weekend. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 kids on campus. 2 5-stars, 6 4-stars, and 1 3-star. I might have counted that wrong. My math is off.
8 4-stars.
8 4-stars. There you go. And then the 3-star. So, big weekend. Moving forward. The recruiting trail is progressing. I'll kick it to Ryan. Ryan, what have you heard? Ryan got his ear to the ground, so he has all the connections. What have you heard, Ryan?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see when more stuff comes out. But it's, seems like a good weekend. Obviously, super important weekend for a lot of not just the overall program, but a lot of these young men making big decisions and what they're choosing their future. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see, right? Like all these guys now, it's a different world than even when you were in it, Fred, which wasn't that long ago. But guys posting, they're out doing the Hollywood sign hike. They're touring like penthouse suites in downtown LA, which is a new thing. I thought one of the cool things that was kind of real big on social media is the USC kind of media production company, like knocked out of the park with everyone does their little like recruiting weekend video. And, true in Hollywood fashion, just had a really good production value on their video. And it was like the big trending thing. A lot of big time journalists and talking heads were all talking about it. And like, man, this SC stuff is big. So, it was cool to see Hilton Stubbs. It was his official visit, but he's actually already committed. But it seemed like he was even kind of like recruiting while he was there, just based on what he was posting and with other safeties and defensive backs that he was with. So, I mean, it's big time. And we'll get into it obviously, but yeah, it looks like a good weekend for SC. We'll see what comes out of it. Usually when these things happen, you get one or two kind of actual verbal commitments fairly quickly. And then other guys wait till they do a lot more of their visits throughout the summer. So I'm sure we'll have some stuff trickle in here in the next couple days and then on through the summer.
Jamal, you got any thoughts? Any rumors you hear trickling coming out of this recruiting weekend?
Yeah, I mean, no rumors per se. I think it's just fun to sort of witness the experience from their eyes, to Ryan's point. And there's kind of two things that really caught my eye this weekend. One is I always look at the recruits who are sort of going to visiting SC, and then they're going to go visit another power and see kind of how they sort of stack up. And I thought Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng in particular was kind of said that, hey, listen, SC is kind of setting the tone for my visits. And that he's got, I believe, Alabama next. And then he's kind of taking that SEC tour. So it's always nice to see how SC stacks up, in particular, Fred, to your earlier point, being in the top 10, top 15 of NIL. How does SC stack up with maybe those schools that right now are maybe a little bit ahead? So it's always nice to kind of get that user feedback, if you will, customer feedback from the players on how the schools stack up. So that's one thing I sort of had my eye on, and going to be kind of tracking these kids as they make their other visits. And then number two, I thought it was a wonderful job of bringing in former players into the experience. I mean, there was a lot of conversation, a lot of interaction with Taylor Mays, with Mike Williams, with Mark Sanchez. Brought a lot of guys, Telfer, a lot of guys that sort of sat on panels, were open to conversation, interacted with the recruits. So really leaning into kind of the lineage and the legacy and the pedigree of the program, and kind of getting a little bit younger from a relatability standpoint. So I thought that was really well done as well. So we'll see how it all shakes out. It feels like, it's a whole new world out there. This is the first visit of 37, it feels like. And, these kids kind of change their minds every 48 hours, it seems, but it's always nice to kind of get off to a good start. And I would think that in today's day and age, you want to maybe set the stage. You want to kind of go first, and then you want to have the opportunity to go last or second to last. You don't want to necessarily be in the middle. You want to kind of set the tone and then have the opportunity to close with these kids. And I think that's where it seems like Lincoln kind of wants to play with his recruiting strategy.
That's how I always set up interviews. I'll either try to go first or I try to go last. You never remember the people in the middle unless you're like really, really good.
For sure.
So that's a little tip.
That's kind of a hidden secret in venture capital. When we were raising money for our company, you'd always go 3-1-2 was the order. You'd always open with your third choice, financiers, because you just want to kind of get the reps out, and you just want to sort of get to the place where the pitch is really good, and then you want to go to your first choices, and then if you struck out there, then you go to your backup. So we always kind of went 3-1-2. That was kind of the way we went about it. So it seems like there's similar games going on in the world of recruiting today.
Yeah. The thing that sticks out to me, and this is how I know that the star rating doesn't make sense. This Nick Townsend, he's a 4-star athlete / tight end. Translation, he's a freak, right? There's no way that you're an athlete and a tight end. Like that means you're a very big athlete, and I think that's the one that you put all your eggs in the basket for. I would, just to let you guys know, like I will want Nick Townsend right away, because if it doesn't work out at tight end, he could go play defense end. If it doesn't work out at defense end, if he's big enough, I'm looking right, he could play linebacker. He is 6'3", 235. like this dude, like, come on, man. Like that's a good check. I'm happy that he was on campus. He's out of Texas, so we'll see the Caney High School. We'll see what he does, but Nick Townsend sticks out to me, 6'3", 235, which he'll get bigger in a summer, right? He'll be 245. He'll gain the 10 pounds quick. Plus, on top of the freshman 15, that extra 5. So that is a guy that is worth keeping your eye on. They have some more alignment on there, which they always do. Shea Hilton does. They got more linebackers. They're recruiting the athlete, Trey McNutt, five-star safety. Man, I don't know this theory, but they're heavy on recruiting defensive backs in the portal and in high school. Like, they're really heavy on recruiting a lot of defensive backs. And then, of course, they have, I guess, Jonah Williams counts as an athlete, a receiver also. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 receivers. So,
real quick
they're always going to recruit receivers.
Real quick on Williams, because he's like a dual, played safety, played receiver, listed as athlete. Here's what I thought was interesting when I was kind of looking into him, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. Because, I mean, they're loaded at secondary. This is what's crazy. Not just this year, but for, years to come. I mean, they got incoming freshmen. We all know about Marcellus Williams at corner. They've got some already in this class signed. Obviously, we just mentioned Stubbs, who was there. Stubbs, who's already committed. And if they, can get a commitment from Trey McNutt. But Jonah Williams, interesting. So 247 lists his main recruiter as Doug Belk, which, would make sense as a safety. Doug Belk's the secondary guy. On 3 lists his main recruiter as Mike Entz, linebacker coach. Now, this could just be it's May, June, off season. I'm reading into things too much, but this to me, a guy of his size, seems like they're going, hey, we're heavy at secondary. We're thin at linebacker. I mean, they're going to lose 4 linebackers after this season when you look at their starters and depth. And if they can get an athlete like a Jonah Williams and, as you mentioned, Townsend, who could potentially play backer, that seems to be maybe the conversation they're having. Coach, my question for you, because you were a guy that was recruited as a different position, if I'm not mistaken, from another school. You wanted to play safety, you recruited, weren't you, as like a hybrid backer? What's that conversation like when it's like you played this in high school, a college wants you to come and play somewhere else? Like, what's that like? And do you think it's a fit, or do you not like when that happens?
And so it comes down to a number of things, right? It always comes, and this is what I tell. I'll start here. This is what I tell kids when they ask for advice for recruiting. When you're on your visit, I shouldn't say this because what if one of the kids watches it? And when you're on your visit and you're in the hotel, you kind of wake up on one of those days, like the Saturday or Sunday morning, and you kind of feel like you're at home. You know what I mean? Like, when you sleep in hotels and it's kind of like, you're not home. You're like, I'm just ready to get home. That's the first thing. The second thing is with the dual position, each school comes at you a different way. It's Oregon State told me, I'm going to be a linebacker. You're coming in right now. You're playing linebacker. You're going to be our will linebacker. SC, I went to their camp. They told me you fit our safety. You play down the box. Like, you're fast enough to be our safety. It was like that with multiple schools. UCLA wanted me to be the linebacker, but they ended up passing on me later down the line. Cal was a safety. Arizona was a safety. Arizona State was linebacker. So they back then, and things might have changed, but back then they would just flat out tell you, like, this is what we want you to play. This is what we're looking at you as. If it doesn't work out, maybe we could give you the opportunity to play the next position. But in certain situations, like if I would have went in at linebacker, I would have never been a safety, right? I would have never had the opportunity to play safety because of it's brand new teaching. It's like learning how to drive with your other foot, right? Everybody drives with their left foot. Now try driving with your right foot. It's kind of weird. And so you have to learn it all over again. I would have not had enough time. So for me, in my experience, schools are straight out, and they were up. Fresno State, Pat Hill was big on me. He wanted me, you're a linebacker. We want you to play linebacker. It makes no sense for you to play safety. You fit in our system. If I played in today's game, I would be a linebacker, or like this Jonah Williams kid. The best position for him to play, if he could run and if he's any good, is to play however they use that fifth defensive back at SC now, that's the spot for him. Now you have a third linebacker and a dude who could cover that's really athletic, and you could protect him over the top with the safety. So for him, it's harder for him because of his athletic ability, and he could be a DB, a linebacker, you know what I mean? Like, or a receiver. Like, so flip a coin, like, where do you really need him? But it's great depth to your roster. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. I mean, to me, his recruitment seems like recruiting as like the linebacker position, just because that's a huge need, and they're just so deep at DB. But you also don't want to pass on a 5-star kid that has tons of talent, and you just make it work. I don't know. So, but it's curious if he's like dead set, like, no, I'm a safety. You're curious how those conversations, if they're like, all right, well, we'll play safety, but it's like, I mean, they have 7 starting caliber safeties right now, and obviously they'll lose a couple like Arnold, but I mean, Ramsey's going to be back. All these guys are going to be back next year, so it could be, if he wants to play safety, I mean, he'll be. But look at Marcellus Williams. I mean, he's going to get starting reps as a freshman, so you never know. You never want to pass on a guy just because you have depth. But linebacker seems like a good spot on paper right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works for SC, right? And this is where it's almost like a dating app, right? Where it's like, how do you make the match work? It's fascinating with him. 6'3", 203. He's 5-star. He's declared as an athlete, but he's really a safety. And so to me, it sort of screams, I think, optionality. I think he wants sort of to be in the best possible position to succeed. And I think this is where, Coach, to your point, I think he's going to be a guy who's really going to lean into defensive coaching philosophy and scheme. And it actually almost kind of concerns me a little bit that on one recruiting portal, it's Belk, and on the other recruiting portal, it's Ends, because who I would want to be his primary recruiter is actually Lynn. Because to your point, he's more of the bigger picture from a schematic standpoint of, hey, you're going to be our 5th defensive back or our 3rd linebacker. We're going to put you in these really interesting type of hybrid situations, a la a Derwin James, for instance, in the NFL, and really kind of create some versatility for you. So I think where he's going to really be leaning are those defensive minds that can really sort of unlock his entire athleticism. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what Kirby Smart has to say. It'll be interesting to see what some of the more defensive-oriented guys in the South and in the Midwest have to say, and then how that kind of stacks up here. So to me, he's probably weighing all of his options, but I don't know if he necessarily wants to just be boxed in. Like, hey, you're coming into SC to be a linebacker. I think he maybe wants something a little bit more and wants to see a little bit more vision from a defensive scheme perspective. So it'll be interesting to see. It's early, like we talked about, right? So when does Lynn kind of come in and put his touches on a recruit? And it's sort of interesting, which are the recruits now moving forward where you can really lean in from a positional coach standpoint and have them be the lead recruiter, and then which recruits do you actually need, somebody above that who kind of cuts across different positions? And it feels like Williams, maybe that fit needs to be with Lynn a little bit.
Yeah, and I also think that it needs to be. This one is a little bit tougher because he could play all 3, and he could probably be very good at all 3. I think in this too, and I'm just going to be honest, even if we miss on him, I have a feeling he'll come back around. And I say this in this case, the way the visits are going, the way that you see Southern California, and you get a legit chance to be a celebrity at 18 years old. And we were celebrities at 18 years old with no money. So just think about how much of a celebrity you are in LA right now at 18 years old. You could go anywhere else. Anywhere else. I think the only place who could compete is Miami to have that same stardom. Like, I think he'll go somewhere else and be like, this just isn't it. Like, I'm a celebrity. Like, portal comes around. Hey, coach, I made a mistake. Can I come? Like, this will be an easy transfer portal grab. Like, so put all your efforts into getting him. I'm not saying let's not get him, but I think a miss, this is one of those that comes back around. This is like asking the girl out, and she's like, no, I'm dating somebody. But then she realized you're the better man. So the better, like, you will make that decision. So that's my opinion. That's what I think. But I do think if we get him, you need to let him know what he wants to do. Here's what you have to do in today's world. You have to ask him what he wants. You need to let him know and convince him what is better for him. And then if it doesn't work, you have to make the change fast. You can't let him sit because he'll go to another school and go play that position that he wants to play. That's the difference with today's game. Back when I played, it's no choice. You playing it and that's it. If you want to transfer, you have to sit out a year. Now you could just go. Like, all right, I don't want to be a safety. I'm just going. I'll go play linebacker somewhere else. You know what I mean? So that's where it gets weird too. And that's where the game is changing now with the way the transfer portal goes.
I want to ask you guys a question, and not to deviate here. I think Ryan brought up a great point of right now the spread in terms of the roster between secondary and linebacker. Are you guys concerned at all about that sort of spread and the fact that there isn't maybe the linebacker depth that there needs to be? And do you think it's just sort of a question of priority right now? It's early in the recruiting cycle. There's only 24 hours in a day. You're sort of prioritizing a certain order. Or is there something where, we all love Entz as sort of an X's and O's guy, but, he's a white guy from North Dakota. Is there sort of a challenge of him kind of relating to the modern player in any way? Are you guys concerned about that at all?
I don't think so, because he was part of one of the most successful programs in his division at that time. And he came from a good system that completely works. Here's the thing too. In reality, depth-wise, truthfully, you only really need to travel 5 linebackers, right? Because you're only using 2, a backup, and then you got a guy that's a swing. So depth chart-wise, what do they have on their scholarship-wise? I think 6 or 7. Like, it's not anything great, right? That's how big the room needs to be in today's game. Like back when I played, it was Mike, Sam, Will, and you need to be 3 deep as each. So now that becomes 9, and now you reduce it by 1. So now everything else reduces. So I think the depth is fine. It's not so much the numbers in the depth, it's the talent in the depth.
The quality. Yep.
Yeah. So like if my ones fall off, how big is the drop off? Yep. Yeah. So if the decline is crazy, then that's where it starts to worry me. But right now, I think it's okay. They have the right numbers. It's can they get the talent to perform? What do you think, Ryan, on Jamal's question?
Yeah. I mean, I think right now I'm not concerned. I think for this season, it's a really strong group. I think when you look at linebacker, it's similar to like running back in terms of depth, as you kind of said, Coach. Like you don't need to have like 12 linebackers as long as you have like 3 to 4 quality starters and then like probably 2 or 3 more like good depth. Looking forward, you have 2 incoming freshmen with Stevens and Newby, who both look really, really strong coming in. They have to get 2 in this recruiting cycle also. I mean, you can't go into the next season losing all your starters plus your senior depth and Rayshawn Davis, and you're going to have 2 freshmen, a couple non-scholarship guys, and then some transfer portal guys. So I would be concerned if they don't get any on this, but right now I feel fine about it. Everything we've heard about Entz, I know we like him, but, and again, it's players talking, but glowing reviews of Entz, glowing reviews from coaching staff and on his recruiting as well. So at this point, I wouldn't be concerned as long as they nail down at least 1 or 2 good ones in this class, which if they can get this kid who was here this weekend, as you alluded to, Jamal, Owosu Boateng, I mean, that'd be a huge
mission accomplished. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, and you got to think about this too, Jamal, and recruiting happens fast. Recruiting is kind of like vacation, right? And this is how somebody explained it to me when I was young in the game. They said recruiting is kind of like vacation. You book your vacation this year, right? You're like, all right, cool. We're going to Hawaii. Next thing you know, you look up and you're got to get ready to go on vacation, right? You go on vacation. Next thing you know, you're back on a plane back home, right? Like it happens faster than you think. And before you know, you're like, all right, who do we have? Where do we miss? So then you start filling in roster spots. So we're in June now. The open period is probably for a couple of months. They probably can't recruit any during camp. So dead period is probably from August to you probably could recruit during the season, bring them in on official visits. Next thing you know, it's December. Like we're in June, just like we were talking about, like we got 1 more month to get through this and August is here. Like it's going to happen faster than you think. And so it's a change. It's such a change, man, in recruiting because of the December date. So they have to be on it and get them now. I think the advantage of them coming in now is the schools are going to try to get them in the season, and you won't get that same attention during the season as you get right now, where there's nothing going on but running and activity. So SC is kind of like on the forefront of this new recruiting thing, because I was like, I saw the tweets. I'm like, why are these dudes on visits? But now that it makes sense that it's December, like, all right, we're going to show them these penthouses. We're going to take them to Hollywood. We're going to do all this immaculate stuff. We're going to show them the LA lifestyle because of this. Check this out. Everybody's on Instagram flashing something. Everybody wants to be a social media influencer. No matter how you say it, they want to live that lifestyle because it's available to us. Now you can live it as an 18-year-old, and all I got to do is play football. I just got to get a 2.0 and play football, and I'm able to do it. Like, that's the craziest thing in the world, and I just have to go to school here. You can't do that anywhere else but Miami. You know what I mean, Jamal? Like, does that make sense?
For sure. Absolutely.
Let me ask you guys this. It's going on, and I'm trying to think the best way to ask the question. So, in terms of official visits, how truly important do you think they are? And let me ask you like this. So, do you think an official visit can do more good in the sense of, like, if a kid is on the fence, that official visit can positively sway him? Or is it more likely official visits do more harm in the sense of a kid's on the fence, they can go there and be like, ooh, that was a rough visit. Like, they didn't have their stuff together, like, and sway them like, okay, I'm not going there. I don't know. Does that make sense at all? Like, how important does it, like, a lot of these kids, with NIL, with coaching philosophy, with NFL on their mind, like, a lot of them probably have their mind made up and they're just doing the official visit to, like, experience the college experience, right? And go and do all these free visits and get all this cool stuff. So how much do you think it actually matters in the recruiting process?
It 100% matters, right? Like, this is the first most important decision. I feel like I'm on a recruiting pitch again. This is the first most important decision that you make in your life is where you go to school, right? Like, and there's you make two important decisions in your life: where you go to school and who you marry. And it kind of falls on the same thing. And for me, and I can't speak for everybody else, I married my wife because I went through a hard situation, and she was right there with me through the whole situation. Didn't buck, didn't have any issues. We'll get through this. I came out of that situation, and I'm like, shit, I don't want anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, this
ride
is, so
ride or die rude.
When you're on a recruiting visit, there's a bunch of things you have to consider. Do I really like the coaching staff? You're going to find out. Let me tell you something about recruiting visits. When they stick you with players and the coaches are no longer there and the players start talking amongst themselves and you're just there because they forget you there, you start to hear a lot of things, right? And then eventually they go, hey, the recruit's here. We'll talk about it later. Like, you start to hear a lot of things. You see a lot of things. You find out if a team is really a team, if a team is really about themselves. Like, there's a lot of things you find out on recruiting visits, which is weird. Well, they're there working out. You don't never leave as a football player. The only time you leave is is if you're not playing a bowl game, you can go home for Christmas, but they stay there the whole time and they go through summer workouts. So you learn a lot of things on your recruiting visit that people don't know. Like, before you party, you're hanging out at their house, you're learning, you hear them talk, and you start to like, all right, I could deal with that. Hey, man, coach such and such is crazy, but he look out for you, though. Like, he's going to be on you, like, blah, blah, blah. You remember when he did this and did that? Yeah, but, hey, one time, like, I was hungry, and I went to his office, and he gave me a burger. Like, you hear those types of things. But then you also hear, like, man, coach such and such, man, he just this, that. Man, he doesn't do this, doesn't do that. I'm ready to get out of here. And then they think about it like, oh, never mind. Like, we'll talk about that later. Like, you start.
That was last year's official visits. Yeah. With the defensive
staff. Well, yeah. Like, and that's what it was like on my visits too. And it's like, you see, and then another factor is what type of person is that kid, right? And in reality, LA is not for everybody. And when I say LA is not for everybody, LA can be too much for some people. And you get out here, especially in today's world, you're going to be put in the bright lights. You're going to become a star, and everybody's not made to be a star. And sometimes, and the best example I could give you is the the quarterback from the 80s. He never had a Big Mac till he went to USC.
Marinovich.
Tom Marinovich.
Robo
right?
QB.
Tom Marinovich lived his one lifestyle, and his goal was to become an NFL quarterback. But then you get to LA, and you're the pro team, and you're the man, and how do you handle that? And all of a sudden, you get an Oreo and a Big Mac, and your life spins out of control. There's a lot of peer pressure no matter what college you go to, and you guys both know that as a student, as an athlete, there's a lot of peer pressure that goes on. Your friends are going to want to come see you. They're going to want to hang out. Hey, man, you could skip this class. I'm in town. All right. Next thing you know, you got grade trouble. Like, there's a lot of things that happen. So stars and lights aren't for everybody. But then you'll say this. Well, what about Alabama and Georgia? The difference between Alabama and Georgia and USC is you're not going from practice and getting a car ride to the crypto.com center, aka Staples Center forever, and sit in front row seats, and all of a sudden you look to your right or your left and Kim Kardashian's there. Alabama, you're going to practice, going to study hall, you're back in your dorm. You're in the middle of nowhere, right? And that works for people. And if that works for people, that's okay. But SC's not for everybody. It's a very special place for very special people, and not everybody can handle that, and it gets them in trouble. So sometimes it's all based on the fit, and that fit might not be for them. And like I said, that's okay. Because you don't want them, at the end of the day, you want the kids to succeed. And you don't want them to fail, because that's a terrible thing to go through, especially at that age. It's hard. So you want them to succeed. So if SC's not for you, I wish you the best of luck wherever you go. But hopefully it works out, and I want to see you succeed. But, hey, you always in with this one. Hey, if it doesn't work out, I'm here for you. Just give me a call, especially in today's game. So, yeah, you guys got me on a whole recruiting bench. I feel like I'm coaching again, sitting in the living room.
Going deep. What do you think, Jamal?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Rye. I think there's kind of two elements I think about it. One is I think the curation is really important. I think the recruits that you bring together on a visit, I think, has a huge impact on the quality of that visit. Because at the end of the day, they're 17, they're 18, they're 19. There's only so much sort of an authority figure can tell them. Obviously, you're very keen on your coaching staff. You're keen on the culture. To Fred's point, you're almost like Sherlock Holmes, kind of with the magnifying glass, looking for the breadcrumbs, looking for the actual clues. But so much of, I think, the quality of your visit is dependent on how your peers are and how your peers enjoy themselves, how they relate to you, what they're learning, what you're learning, and seeing yourself in that world. Because at the end of the day, college is all about your peers. It's do I see myself here in this world, in this community, in this group of people? So I think the curation is really important. And I think there's a lot of thought that goes into that. And I think that more than some of the external factors, I think plays a bigger role than I think people realize. And B, I think SC's in a very unique situation when it comes to these official visits. And I think, no pun intended, but it is a double-edged sword because A, you are selling Los Angeles and the benefits that come with Los Angeles, but B, the vast majority of these kids are not going to be experiencing Los Angeles the way you're selling it on these official visits. So you also have to be a little bit careful of how much you sell the external aspect of it, because you also don't want to lead them down a road to say, hey, all of this is sort of available to you in terms of the Los Angeles marketplace, when the reality is, unless you're the star quarterback or you're a Bolitnikoff winner or you're, the top 1, 2, 3 guys, it actually kind of isn't. And so you got to be careful there. And then the fact that there is so much perception around Los Angeles, there is such an aura around Los Angeles, you have to live up to that on the visit, because you could have sort of this expectation of LA and be like, well, there was just so much hype around it and it didn't live up, right? So there's these interesting things that I think, to Fred's point, USC sort of uniquely has to navigate, given that it is Los Angeles, but they have to kind of be careful here. Coach, you're describing, hey, I get into the car, I go to crypto. I didn't really see anyone have that experience these last 2 years outside of a one Caleb Williams, Sure. So at the end of the day, you have to kind of be a little bit mindful of what exactly you're selling and how attainable that is, number one. And then number two, I think the curation of who you're putting together in these visits, I think plays a really powerful role.
That's a good point, Jamal. Can I just a quick story? So my senior year, we mastered a plan, and it wasn't to go to SC, it was to go to Oregon. And it was Jure Casey, me, Trayvon Patterson, Terrence Austin. We were the ones that were going to go, and Vincent Joseph. We were going to originally go. Behind that was going to be my brother, Donovan Warren. They were going to go behind us. Behind them, it was going to be Von Telemack, Jarrell Casey, who went to SC, and it was one more, Herman Davis. We were all going to go to Oregon. Like,
you guys tried to Trojan horse the Trojans?
No, it was we were getting recruited, and we all talked about it. Like, we were all there, and we were like, we could set this up in Oregon where we could pipeline it and win a couple of national championships and be a really good team and have a bunch of people there, and we'll be around each other. We can make it really work. Well, something happened with Jure, and then Terrence was like, this doesn't feel right. Terrence is going to UCLA. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to Oregon State then. Like, we're not doing it. I'm going to Oregon State. I get the late night phone call. I go to USC. Trayvon's already at SC. Vincent was going to SC, which is Jarrell Casey. Ended up Donovan goes to Michigan. My brother goes to Oregon. But we had a big plan to just like, hey, we could legit take this thing and go to Oregon and become like, because back then they had the billboards. Like, we could have our own billboard. But one person strayed off the plan, which was unfortunate. But he strayed off the plan, and everybody was like, yeah, let's go ahead and break this up. Like, the band's not together, so to Jamal's point, he's right. Like, it's all who you're on a visit with. And them having Stubbs there. Stubbs is there. Hey, bro, don't you love it here? Like, don't you like it here? Like,
he's the super node.
Yeah.
He was recruiting. I mean, taking pictures with Kobe's statue. But no, I mean, it's a great point too, Jamal, because I remember even obviously very different. I visited 2 schools, and it wasn't for sports. And I was already technically enrolled at Long Beach State, but it was called SOAR, SOAR, which was like your freshman almost orientation in the summer. And we did, because I was out of state, I was in an overnight one. And literally my 5 best friends from college, I all met at that orientation, that very first summer weekend. And so it's absolutely true that, who you recruit with. And I think you also look at, and you mentioned kind of like what faces student-wise, you mentioned this, you both did, but like current student athletes were here. Obviously the greats, Mike Williams, you mentioned, and whatnot, that were there, but what current ones were around? Because if you remember back in the Pete days, I mean, Alex Holmes was like the closer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stories for days, a lot of them off the record stories, but of Alex Holmes basically being Pete Carroll's ringer. I mean, he closed guys on those official visits. And so who's that closer for the current team, and who's doing that work? And we've heard, Julian Lewis is kind of doing that behind the scenes, and he's not even enrolled yet technically, but I think that's always important. And last thing I'll kind of say is, I don't know if you guys saw, we've talked about actually having her on, but Cameron Fountain, incoming freshman edge, who's going to be a stud. His mom was on USCJ's show a couple days ago. Shout out our good guy, USCJ. And she was talking about their official visit last year, and just said USC knocked out of the park in terms of it was just way more organized than other schools they visited. Obviously the coaching and the LA stuff, everything we've talked about, that sells itself. But like the actual just like selling the school, she said SC did a really good job. And one thing that she mentioned that I thought was cool, that apparently other schools don't do this. I thought this would have been fairly obvious. But if you already have like an idea of what your major was, like SC set it up so you meet your professors in that major ahead of time. So like you got an idea of like the classrooms like and whatnot. So it seems like, just from hearing stories, that SC's doing a really good job just in the intricacies of the visit. Obviously there's everything LA has to offer, but also making sure that they're doing a full-fledged attack, if you will, on showing like, this is LA, glitz and glam, all this, but this is the education you're getting. This is the campus experience you're getting. These are the players that are here that are going to, you're going to be with. So I agree with you. I posed the question, but I 100% think these these official visits are extremely important because it's the first true experience these kids get on these campuses in these cities.
And Ryan, it's such a good point about Alex Holmes, right? I mean, and so much has been sort of said in the past, and he was there when I was there, and Fred was there, and all of that. And he was such the quintessential LA guy. That's the thing, still is. Right? Because still is, of course. But, he went to Harvard Westlake, which is sort of, a very LA prep school. I know it well. And then going from Harvard Westlake to USC, he was an athlete, but, just all his classmates at Harvard Westlake. There was a lot of sort of Hollywood influence there, a lot of, folks in various industries, finance, entertainment. So there was sort of a natural network that he had built at a very young age. And with those prep schools, it's K through 12. And, he was there from a very early age. And so kind of built this network. And so, him being Pete's closer made all the sense in the world because he knew LA better than Pete did. I mean, and just with his personality and his charisma and being a player, the Alex Holmes closers don't grow on trees. It's going to be fascinating to see who sort of steps into that role, because you need to be a player. You need to sort of have respect in the locker room, but you also need to be relatable to all different types of people. There's an EQ element there that is it sort of goes unnoticed. And then you've got to kind of be an LA guy, to be able to sort of have the ins and the pulls and all of that. So who the next, we talk so much about, is Lincoln the next Pete? Is DeAnton Lynn like the next real deal DC? Are all these coaches supposed to be who they are? Maybe the question we should be asking is, who's the next Alex Holmes? When we find the next Alex Holmes, that's truly when SC football will be back.
Real quick, Coach, I know you want to comment on that. Just real quick. We talked about it brief. I can't remember if we even said this, but when Julian Lewis was out here for like a unofficial little just kind of tour visit, and there was a little NIL event that I went to, guess who was there? Alex Holmes. Yep.
Well, surprise. Yeah. I don't know though if Alex has quite the same cachet at 42 that he did at 22.
Well, I was talking to him because I had met him before. We were sitting talking, and he's like, "Bro, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing." You're just like there, like he's like the funniest guy. Works in crypto, which is hilarious. But anyway, go ahead.
Well.
Of course he does. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's two things. So one thing is, it was easy to recruit us. They pointed to downtown and said, we own downtown LA, right? Like, you want to work downtown LA, then this is where you come to school. The Trojan Mafia, USC for life, like you get this whole thing. But another thing, to Jamal's point, was there was somebody who was the football guy and there was somebody who was the party guy. And I experienced this one time, and I don't know if you get in trouble, but there was an open tab at a certain club in downtown LA, and we used to take them there, and it was flowing, right? There was some illegal activity going on, but we'll just leave it at that. But that worked a lot. But, like, here's the difference. My recruiting visits, they were all the same. And they still – so all my recruiting visits, we talked to the dean or the counselor of whatever we were interested in, right? So we did that. But you flew in Friday. They fed you. You got to see the team pregame or whatever. You did all that. You go to a party Friday. Saturday, you go to the game. You get to do everything in the morning. You get to be with your host. You get to watch the game. They do the whole, like, meet your counselor thing on Saturday also. They feed you. You go to a party. Sunday, you go home. You sleep on the plane. Now, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Now, you can't even, that won't even work. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Get it all out. Get it all out. He's getting choked up thinking about Morgan
He's so excited talking about the old days that, he can't even control himself right now, I mean, that's how good it was back then, okay?
Actually, Corvallis was my best trip. I'm not going to lie to you. Corvallis.
I don't doubt it.
Corvallis
those places that is just the college town that are self-contained, they go ham. I mean, so I don't doubt that for a second.
Corvallis was fun.
Yeah,
like
I don't doubt it.
Corvallis is just Corvallis. Like I legit. There was a girl there. She said, "If you commit here and you come back here, I'll be your girlfriend." I was like, "What? Like, what do you how's it work like that?" But no, like Corvallis. But like now, you can't recruit like that. I can't fly a kid in one day, feed him, and like you have to do all this stuff. Me, maybe I'm old. I wouldn't want to do all that. Like I don't care. Like I'm the type of person. I'm here for the party. Show me what the party life is like. Like I'm just being honest with you. Like I don't want all the fancy stuff. I don't need that. I want to talk to the coaches. Let me talk to the school, see what the school's like. Can you guys get me to the NFL? And let me show me what the nightlife is like, because I'm not the type of person to stay inside the house. So let's do that. But I'm simple. I'm old. Probably in today's world, I need all the extra stuff because I was just looking at On3, and did you guys know this on On3? There's a tab on there on your player profile that says NIL value.
That's what that's what On3 was founded on, was like an NIL database.
So like there's value, so it's a whole different game. You have to recruit these kids like you're recruiting a free agent. And that's all the stuff they're doing now is the stuff that they do for free agents in the NFL. Like, this is crazy. But I'm just saying, Corvallis.
World, coach.
Different world. Corvallis, Oregon, though, best place I've ever been.
And they're going to run the Mountain West for a few years. So.
That's fine. Hey, Corvallis, Oregon. But I get why people like Dennis Erickson won at Corvallis. I completely understand it. You get a Chad Johnson and TJ Husmanzada. This is your world, bro, for the next 2 years. Primo. I'm just saying that. That's all I'm saying. Corvallis, Oregon. If you're single and you like younger co-eds, go visit Corvallis, Oregon, and watch what happens. I guarantee you'll have a great story. I'll put it like that.
This is going to get us in trouble, man.
I'm just off there. We got to record.
I want to unpack that statement for a second. If you're single and you like younger co-eds, I want to just ask you, who is your target audience for that line? What demographic are you identifying there? What age exactly?
Our age group.
Oh, jeez.
Our age group. There's people out there. Who like younger women. Like there was. Hold on, wait, Jamal. Wait, don't Ryan. You too. You're telling me all the college parties you went to was just people your age? Never. There's always that old guy who is in.
Yeah, but parties. Is that what you're selling? Oh, come to USC where you can be the old guy. You know?
No. What I'm saying is, Corvallis. If you're into that type of stuff. And you want to experience a really good time, go to Corvallis, Oregon. That's what I'm saying.
If our viewers get in trouble, over there, there's no liability on the Bet Online Salute to Troy show.
There's no liability. We didn't
tell to me.
No.
Make sure the asterisk of age. That's definitely the understanding there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely of age. That's 100. We're gonna have to record on Thursday, Ryan. This can't go on the radio.
Yeah. Bring us home.
Bring us home. We had a good one. We had fun today. At least we made it 47 minutes. There we go. Good job, guys. I appreciate you guys. Recruiters are rolling. It's so fun. How about we do this again on Thursday? I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, Ryan. Appreciate all your fans. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. You guys know how it goes. Live free, fight on.